Good morning, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of Curiosity, our science show. I'm Felix. I'm talking to you here from SP Jain Institute of Management here in Andheri West, Mumbai. So I came here to give a talk. It's called TEDx Talk. Uncharted territory is the theme of this event, and so I'm going to talk about the climate crisis in Antarctic this evening. Okay, so stay tuned. I'm going to post the link here in the below the show notes of this video. Right. So yeah, without further ado, let's jump into this month's episode. This is 65th episode. You see that long way and yeah, miles to go to, isn't it? So yeah, this one is a completely ad-free science show for the uninformed. Yeah, I'm a professor working at Central University of Punjab. So I'm spending my time for the science communication. I hope you will appreciate it. I would like to know your comments. So take out a moment and put your comments about the show, okay, in the show notes. All right, so without further ado, let's jump into this month, March. March is a spring month here in the northern hemisphere and autumn month in southern hemisphere. If you are somewhere from the southern hemisphere, okay, so yeah, it's a month of spring equinox. So as usual, we'll start with the etymology of the month. Name, March, coming from Martius. In Latin, Martius means Mars. You know, the third month of the calendar, right? The Roman calendar did have this name Martius. Yeah, Mars as a war, because after a long hiatus of the cold winter months, the season of war emerges in the March, so that's why this month is called Martius and March. That's pretty interesting etymology, isn't it? Yeah, I really like this etymology. The word name will give you a lot of ideas about how to interpret it and how to, the circumstances and the meaning, yeah, the contextualization. That's pretty interesting, isn't it? I really love it. Okay, so this month we'll look forward for the equinox, a well-awaited moment. I really love this equinox and solstice. So March is a very special month. And in this year, the equinox is going to happen on 20th of March. So stay tuned. Let's celebrate it like in a pagan way. And here in India also, right? In Indian culture, right? In ancient times, Vedic time, it used to be called Uttarayana, isn't it? So the March equinox. So let's celebrate it. Yeah. All right. So, well, as you know, the equinox is it will actually bring the first sunrise in the North Pole, while in South Pole it's going to be the first sunset, and that sunset, the night is going to last for the next 6 months. But in North, just opposite. It's going to be summertime for the next 6 months. That is pretty amazing, isn't it? And as per florography, as usual, this is a month of daffodils, narcissus, the flower. All right, now let's round up what really moved the world of sciences in the last month. Okay, so the biggest news, really a paradigm shift, I would like to say. Well, asteroid Bennu and OSIRIS-REx mission of NASA, we featured many times in this Curiosity Science show. Those who are regular, subscribers of this program might remember we covered why it is really important. OSIRIS-REx is a NASA mission which landed onto the asteroid Bennu to collect its sample. It's really tricky to land on an asteroid with irregular shape and the movement. It's really tricky, but they did it. Then they got back the sample, and then, well, we also already covered in Curiosity, right? They had a problem with removing its lid. It is really tough. It took months to remove. It got stuck up. So it is kind of funny, but yeah, lid gets stuck up in our kitchen too, isn't it? So yeah, they could finally remove it. They analyzed it, and the paper is actually coming from a Japanese team. It's pretty interesting. Yeah, Japanese also involved with this mission. What is this discovery all about? Well, before that, you might know how the life on Earth originated, right? The origin of life, the abiogenesis, isn't it? So the currently well-accepted theory is that it originated somewhere in hot springs of the ocean. It's a pool. Yeah, so in which that time the formation of this amino acid was conducive. Yeah, that used to be our predominant hypothesis till now. Not now. After this paper got published, Everything has changed. Earlier, it used to say there used to be another theory called panspermia, that the life came from extraterrestrial sources, from the heavens. The life got introduced to the earth. Now, this paper is pretty interesting. It says that, well, in asteroid Bennu, the sample collected by OSIRIS-REx have got all 4 nucleotide bases plus all 20 amino acids. Can you believe it? Strongest yet, the proof that life on Earth came from space, introduced by the asteroid. So it's a paradigm shift. Right now, after this paper got published, now it's like 95% chance is for panspermia hypothesis. Very interesting, right? Science is always interesting. I really love these kind of stories. Well, the next story is January, just the month, 2 months back, right? The Jan 2025 had been the hottest month ever. Well, you see that this, despite the El Nino, isn't it? La Nina, the other side of El Nino is La Nina, the cold southern oscillation. La Nina and polar vortex in the United States and northern Europe. This last winter has been really tough, and despite this very cold winter, January had been the hottest month. Isn't it surprising? All right. Another related news coming from Arctic. The Arctic is warming 20 degrees Celsius above the average. So it is tremendous warming in the Arctic. That is really worrisome. 20 degrees Celsius above the mean temperature of the winter months in Arctic. 20 degree, friends. It's tremendous. Well, from Arctic, let's go to Antarctic. The ancient duck-like bird fossil got discovered recently. It's a duck fossil, right? So from the Antarctic, and it is basically the oldest modern. The fossil got discovered, and so it is the oldest fossil of the bird ever got recorded. Can you believe? Oldest. And this story is pretty more interesting that, the modern birds, till now, we thought that it's originated after the KT extinction event. The big impact, the asteroid striking somewhere in Yucatan Peninsula of the Mexico, right? And now this predates the KT extinction. So that means the modern bird did exist even before the KT extinction. KT extinction is a very interesting event that completely wiped off the world of dinosaur. So after that, mammal, the world became mammal like us. We came in existence only thanks to that asteroid impact, isn't it? Yeah, that's pretty interesting story. Next story is that later onset of the menopause is linked with lower heart disease rate. So if you're having the menopause later, then the risk of heart disease is much lower. That is pretty interesting. Another related story is air pollution and extreme temperature prolong the pregnancy. So it's not the 9 months, but it gets longer. So because of the air pollution and also extreme temperature, like extreme hot. The thermal fluctuation prolongs the pregnancy, which is a bad news. Do you know why? So because if the baby is really big, the chance of stillbirth is extremely high. So that's why it is not a good news. Now, next story is about language. The Sanskrit, the Indian language, isn't it? It's it's the most ancient language of Indo-European language family. Ancient language. Now, the paper published in Nature argues that people who spoke this language, Sanskrit, is not coming from India. It's coming from Russia. So Russian steppe. The paper, it's in Nature. You can just check out, right? It's they were looking at the DNA sequence. It's pretty interesting. It's a challenging, paper that completely changed. I kind of like a paradigm shift, but we need still more evidences to substantiate it. And people are not agreeing fully with this paper, but linguists, especially many prominent linguists, have opposed it. But still, I'm looking forward for further twists and turns about this story. All right, next is about glaciers. The world's glaciers are melting. We all know, isn't it? We just spoke about Arctic. What is happening? Isn't it 20 degrees above the average in this last December alone. Well, glacier retreat and glacier melting. Do you know how much is the glaciers melting? So it's a very nice, analogy I came across in the last month's paper. So they determined that every single second, 3 Olympic swimming pool worth water is being melted. Can you believe it? Every single second, not minute, not an hour, second, 1 second, 3 swimming pools of water gone. Isn't it terrific? Yeah, we have to fight this one together. So by joining hands, this is not the time to to speak about drill baby drill. No, that doesn't work. So we have to think more judiciously. You need to be visionary, isn't it, to foresee the far future. Yeah. Next story again, AI. These days, every single curiosity comes with an AI-related story, isn't it? So it's Google's AI that is basically called Gemini, right? You might have used it. I really love this Gemini. The Americans say it is Gemini or Gemini. Yeah. So we used to have a circus called Gemini Circus in Kerala, right? When I was young. All right. So this Gemini AI beat International Mathematical Olympiad gold medalists. That's pretty interesting. And now the new news is about the geometry problem. So geometry is kind of really tricky, So the spaces and the patterns and all, right? So AI could able to solve even the geometry problems, So that is pretty interesting, isn't it? Better than, the gold medalists. So yeah, they beat the gold medalists. Amazing, isn't it? All right, next paper is coming from Abhijit Banerjee, the same Indian who won the Nobel Prize, Abhijit Banerjee and Duflo, isn't it? So Abhijit's new paper published in Nature argues that the math learning ability of the students from India is completely different, from school and in the street. So those who perform very well in school are not performing in the street, and vice versa too. So there is a communication gap between math learning ability. So please check out the show notes for all the links of these original articles that that we are covering in this episode of the Curiosity. Next is about in India we had Kumbh Mela, a very massive event. And there also there had been news about the stampedes in Delhi, New Delhi railway station. Those who were going for that Mela, right? There were many deaths in New Delhi station, unfortunately. Well, stampede. Can you prevent the stampede from happening? That is the new paper. This new paper is coming from the Spanish team. It's in Nature. Check out the show notes for this paper. What they did is that they looked at the fluid dynamics of the crowd formation, the oscillations of the crowd formation. It's not like completely unpredictable. So sometimes the crowd movements are, of course, it's predictable. And now I'm looking forward to some AI intervention for early warning of the stampede. So that is going to be pretty interesting. So early warning sign. So yeah, so this paper, if you read this paper, I really like how they started this paper, the Nature paper. This, the article started. Imagine a cup of tea or coffee and make a swirl. Do you know how the swirls are moving? So fluid dynamics can predict it. The movement of these waves in your coffee cup. Similarly, we could able to now predict the waves of human oscillations, chiral oscillations. I'm looking forward to further developments in this, research. Next is the disease GBS. It's called Guillain-Barré syndrome. So Guillain-Barré syndrome is a nervous system disorder, and it has linked with many infectious diseases like dysentery, causing microorganisms. Right, the microbes when these microbes get into your intestine, it can cause this kind of problem that ultimately leads to GBS. So there has been a GBS outbreak somewhere near to where I'm talking to you from, Pune. I'm in Bombay now, right? Mumbai to Pune is not too far. So in Mumbai, yeah, there have been this incident, and also one case reported from Kerala too, and many death. So yeah, that is that usually that reason is Campylobacter jejuni. Campylobacter jejuni causes dysentery in intestine, and that is actually the reason for this GBS. Well, in the media, I could see many reports about COVID vaccine, especially Covishield, Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. And yeah, I mean, if you see that inside a Oxford vaccine, potential side effect, extremely rare side effect, GBS is one of the side effect. But that doesn't mean that, well, this is because of the vaccine. All those are fake news, friends. It's not because of the vaccine. Had it been a case, then, well, during the COVID time, millions of Indians got vaccinated. And that time, there was no GBS, right? No reports. Yeah, it's a sporadic, and most probably it's because of the coliform bacteria in the drinking water. We have to investigate it further. Yeah. Okay, next study is coming from China. Exercise reduces internet addiction, and also the smartphone, reel addiction, for example, or swipe addiction, right? So if you think that you have or you're more prone for this kind of addiction, then, well, you can you can do an exercise, right, like running or even simple walking. That can potentially cure this addiction. That's pretty interesting paper. Now, about the obesity, a very popular drug for obesity, isn't it? So that is basically semaglutide. Semaglutide, Wegovy. So semaglutide is available now in India. It's marketed here in India. It is pretty expensive. So semaglutide, how it actually reduces the obesity? It's also a diabetic drug. It's because it targets something called GLP-1 receptor, glucagon-like peptide, right? GLP-1. So because it is an agonist that activates this GLP-1, then that lead to more insulin sensitivity. That means better control of the diabetes and reducing the obesity. So this new study shows that this particular drug is also very good to control or reduce people's desire for alcohol. So for alcoholism too, semaglutide is a very good drug. That's pretty interesting, isn't it? Well, it's not approved for alcoholism yet, but yeah, this is pretty interesting. Well, this campus is really nice. Lots of birds flocking. You could have heard this, the calls of the birds when I'm talking to you, isn't it? Yeah, it's so nice. Right. Now, the next story is, well, there is a new drug approved by the US FDA for pain, chronic pain. Many of human populations, human beings suffer from the chronic pain, especially for end-stage cancer patients. So till now, we had only one, very good painkiller, that is opioid. But then opioid it's a huge crisis too, right? It has the other side of the same coin is about the drastic side effects of it, that it is highly addictive, right? Once you start the opioid, it's very difficult to get out of it, and it's pretty expensive too, the opioid. And yes, so, well, this new non-opioid painkiller has been approved. So that is very interesting. And the name of this non-opioid painkiller is suzetrigine. Suzetrigine. Check out the show notes for this. I'm really looking forward for further development of this story. And this pain suppression is as good as opioid pain suppression. There is no addiction, and there is no sedation. There is no risk for overdose. Oh, so good, isn't it? That is I'm looking for. The paper got published in Nature. Okay, so you can just check it out, right? Yeah, it's in the show notes. Now, the next story is about heavy metals in water. How to get rid of this heavy metal? Well, of course, you can use RO water. That gets rid of the heavy metals, yeah. There is another much cheaper way. Do you know what? Brewing of the tea. So once you brew the tea leaves has an ability to remove cadmium and mercury and whatnot, arsenic too. So the study looked at this lead and cadmium. That is very interesting, right? Lead has especially has an impact on your IQ level. So lead is really bad. So it can remove the black, especially the black powdered tea leaves. That is what they did, a lot of interesting combinations, and they singled out these tea leaves. Not really long tea leaf, but powder like black teas, not the green tea, but black one has got higher so the removal efficiency. And also they looked at different kinds of materials for the paper bags, right? So what they found is that cellulose or paper tea bags are the best, not the cotton tea bags. And of course we covered in this curiosity too, plastic. If you're using plastic tea bag, it releases instantly thousands of microplastics. So never ever use that plastic the tea bags. Okay, so that's very interesting. And also more sipping time means more removal. Yeah, it's obvious, isn't it? Next is neural fossil. Human ear, the pinna can move. Some people can move this ear, right? Especially like when sound is coming from backside, you have a tendency to move this muscle. I can move it. So yeah, this is a vestigial feature of human being. And now the new paper, they were looking at the origin of this pinna movement, and they traced it 25 million years old. These vestigial features are. So that means that we still have this feature developed 25 million years back, old ancestors of human beings. So that's pretty interesting, isn't it? So no, we lost it 25 million years back, but some of us still do have it. That is the beauty of it. Like Felix, I do have that ability. I'm sure many of the listeners of this curiosity also do have it. Next story is about beach holiday. Ancient beach. We are talking really long back. Approximately 3 million years back, isn't it? At that time, Mars had ocean like, Earth. So the Chinese rover on the Mars discovered, substantial evidence for the existence of such beach on the shorelines of the Martian Sea. The paper got published in PNAS. So the rover is called Zhurong, right? So the Chinese National Space Agency Zhurong rover, it discovered that. It's a pretty interesting story in PNAS. Well, that's it about the science stories. Now coming to the main observances, science and UN related observances of this month. First March is Seagrass Day, Zero Discrimination Day. So there are two observances for the 1st of March. Second, I'm recording this on 2nd. Second, you can see, Moon and Venus conjunction. So in the same photo frame, you can have two, planets together. Okay, and the third is UN Wildlife Day. 6th is Moon Jupiter conjunction, right? And then 8th is the best day to spot Mercury, the morning star, isn't it? So 8th, stay tuned for it. And also 8th is International Women's Day. Very important observation. 9th is for Moon and Mars conjunction. Then 14th is the full moon of Mars. It's called worm moon. So worm moon, check it out on 14th. Okay, and also that this time the full moon coincides with lunar eclipse, the blood moon eclipse. Well, it's not visible here in India, not at all. But if you're watching the show from Americas, you can see it. And this happens, well, lunar eclipse always happen only on full moon's day. There is a reason for it. You can explore it further. Why? It's also, it should incite your curiosity, isn't it? Yeah. 20th, as I told you, it is a equinox, a March equinox. So southern hemisphere, northern hemisphere bias is the reason why this equinox is called spring equinox by everyone. That is wrong. It's spring equinox only in northern hemisphere, not in southern hemisphere. For southern hemisphere, it is autumnal equinox. So it's better to call it as March equinox. And also, it's the same day. On the same day, we also have Happiness Day. So I hope the sun brings you a lot of happiness. Next day, 21st is World Poetry Day, Nowruz Day. Now, Rose is also has some connotation with the equinox, isn't it? Forests Day and Glaciers Protection Day. So also this year, 2025, is International Year of Glacier, protection, isn't it? That we have covered in the January episode of Curiosity. 22nd of March is the World Water Day. 23rd is, that is a pretty interesting. So the Earth is crossing the plane of the Saturn ring on 23rd of March. So that means that on that night, if you do have powerful telescope, of course, you will not see the ring on the Saturn. That's very interesting. And many people who are actually looking at the Saturn's moon are looking forward for this particular day to come. Do you know why? So it can tell you the thickness of the Saturn's ring, and also the plane position of its moon around its ring. Some moons will appear on the top, some moons will be appearing down. So yeah, a lot of bookings for JWST Space Telescope on this day. Well, you can check it out, the JWST page for the bookings. Anyone can book it. That is the beauty of this NASA's telescope. It's completely open for anyone. So in case you have a very interesting plan, you can book Hubble space telescopes, and also for JWST, you don't have to pay for it. Isn't it interesting? I really love it, yeah. And the next is gonna be on 29th is a solar eclipse. Can you believe it? Well, it's a partial solar eclipse. It's visible from the Arctic and nearby, especially in the Americas. From the Arctic, the northern Americas, you can see the partial solar eclipse. This is the first eclipse of the solar eclipse of 2025. Okay, and the 30th of March is gonna be Zero Waste Day. Wasteless it should be the biggest message of sustainability, right? Waste less means buy less. That automatically leads to wasting less, and also say no to fast fashion. Right. Finally, the final section of the curiosity is about opportunities. Are you interested in using video for science communication? Then there is a very interesting workshop scheduled on 12th March by International Science Council's Asia Pacific Regional Focal Point, based at Australian Academy of Sciences. So they invited me to serve as an interview with me as a resource person, and you're welcome to be part of this the training. So it's on 12th March, so you need to register. The link is in the show notes. Then Club of Rome Communications Fellowship. So if you're interested in communication and media research, for up to 6 to 7 months, the internship in Rome, fully paid. 7th March is the deadline. DBT, that is Department of Biotechnology. MK PAN, postdoctoral fellowship is also open the call. 16th March is the deadline. EMBO courses and workshop, in case you want to organize in your place. So you can apply for it. 1st March is the deadline. IPBES EMCR call. It's a UN subsidiary, IPBES, of the biodiversity profiling. So if you're an early career researcher, you can apply for it. 28th March is deadline. Then EMBO Global Investigator Network, if you want to be part of this investigator network, of course it comes with grant. 1st May, you have sufficient time to apply for it. Then SCAR working group, that is it's a society for the Antarctic researchers. Okay, so SCAR is about Antarctic researchers. If you want to be part of the working group of SCAR, you can apply. 16th May is the deadline. And another postdoc call is called Momentum, very prestigious, by Hungarian Academy of Sciences. Well, I'm also privileged to be, part of the external peer review group of the Hungarian Academy of Sciences. I reviewed many of their proposals. Okay, so Momentum postdoc call. Well, it's fully paid, and it's one of the prestigious, the scholarships, the fellowship for the postdoc. 31st May is the deadline for this Momentum call. And as usual, do check out the Facebook group for the calls. And I wish you very best throughout this spring month of March. And I will see you with yet another episode of The Curiosity in the next month. Until then, Please take care of yourself, and if you can, someone else too. Goodbye.